Good evening to everyone. On behalf of Association for Veterinary Dermatology India and Intas Pharmaceuticals, I welcome all of you for this dermatology webinar. And recently, we have seen lot of pet animals. With our clients are bringing lot of exotic pets for our practice. So in that we have lot of skin issues, particularly the loss of skin due to various disorders like behavioral problem, viral disease, or fungal disease, or even with a parasitic disease, which are quite commonly presented. So we should have an idea about this. So we thought we will go for exotic pet dermatology itself as one webinar. And in that we have got our expert, Dr. Ronnie Maria Thomas. We a very young lady who did medicine post graduation, and she has got a good exposure in exotic pet dermatology. So we thought of going for one good webinar with her. So today that is the day. So I welcome all of you and enjoy yourself for this webinar. I request our Dr. Nitin Bhatia from Mentas to introduce her, our guest. Thank you.
Thank you, Nagarajan sir. Uh, First and foremost, I welcome you all to this yet another episode of Association of Veterinary Dermatology and INTAS collaborative webinar series. As rightly quoted by Nagaraj sir, the reason for having Dr. Rani with us is that exotic birds are growing in number, their concerns are growing, and many vets need to be acquainted with the same. So we have Dr. Rani with us, who was a graduate and a postgraduate in medicine from Kerala. And after being a postgraduate, she is practicing currently at Mumbai. I've seen her as a very passionate towards avians from the very starting. And to be very frank, and she has been grown up in a aviary which has been owned by her father. So that's why she has a higher attachment to the avian birds. And currently, she is practicing at Mumbai. I'll not take much of your time and fully hand it over to her for her session on exotic pet and the birds. So over to Dr. Rani.
Thank you, sir. Yes. I hope the PPT is visible. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Association for Veterinary Dermatology India and Indus Animal Health, for giving me this beautiful, wonderful, big platform to present one of my favorite topic, the exotic bird dermatology. I think it's already time 6 o'clock. I think we will go directly to the presentation. So any vet or any new student who is being presented in the clinic, always will be presented with a bird case, right? And most common bird case that we deal is the feather plucking. Loss of feather is a common concern. And what we see is these pet parents want their birds' feathers to be very bright, shining, and very sleek. And the problem with the pet parents is that any disease with the feather or the skin, they identify much earlier than the gastrointestinal or weight loss or any abdominal distensions. The first sign that they notice is, oh, my bird's feather has a discoloration, or my bird's feather is broken, or my bird is plucking the feathers, and things like that. And as vets, feather plucking or feather plucking birds is a major concern for us because it's very difficult, it's very common, and it's very difficult to tackle this condition and come to a conclusion and proper diagnosis of what is actually happening in this scenario. On this context, I will start my presentation. Yeah. I will not talk much about the avian skin and feather anatomy. I'll just brush up through it because I'm not a very fan of anatomy. So the integumentary system in birds is much different from the mammals, right? Uh, there are few differences that we can see. Starting from the skin. The skin is very thin in birds, with less subcutaneous tissue, dry, with less elasticity, very few vessels and nerve supply. This makes them prone to infections. Like if you're giving if it's a hand feeding bird, and if you're giving a formula that is higher, like say for hand feeding formula like 40, 41 degrees Celsius, they end up having crop burns. And whenever a bird is presented with heavy feather plucking, if we examine through the skin, we can see areas of hemorrhages, areas of erosions, and things like that. The one good thing the skin is light for birds, it help them to reduce their body weight, and which help them in the flight mechanism. Second important things that we have to understand is presence of glands in birds. There are few true glands in birds, like the uropygial gland, which is found on the synsacral region. There are few sebaceous gland near the ear canal of the bird, and few glands seen on the vent region. What they say is from the keratin layer of the skin, some lipids are produced. These lipids interact with the oil that is produced from the uropygial or clean gland, and that help in waterproofing, which help to get rid or keep away the bacterial and fungal infection and keep the skin dry. Yes. Next, feathers. I'm not going to explain to you what is a filoplume, what is a contour feather, what is a down feather. There are different types of feathers that the birds have. But I have marked two feathers, that is a powder down feathers and the blood feathers. Why is it important? And what is a powder down feather and what is a blood feather? Powder down feather is nothing but it's a modified down feather. It is seen not in every species, but species like the cockatoo, as in this picture, the African grey parrot, cockatiels. If anyone of you have handled a cockatoo or African grey, we cuddle the bird, we play with them, and when we lead the bird back to the cage, we can see our apron or scapsuit is fully covered with a white powdery dust. This white talcum-like powder is nothing but the powder down feathers. Why this is important? It helps to keep the bird dry, and it is a protective layer to the bird. And blood feathers, it is nothing but a feather that is growing. We often see bird clients running to our clinic telling, doctor, my bird is bleeding, just see what is happening. So when we examine the bird, it's nothing but a broken blood feather. Whenever the bird is molting, the new feather will have blood supply to it. If you see in this, we can see a normal feather which is white in color, and next to it we can see a black feather, that is the blood feather. So whenever there is a dam, because it's very fragile, it breaks easily, and whenever it's broken, it bleeds. So that blood feather and powder down feathers have clinical significance in avian dermatology. Sorry for the background noises. I'm in my clinic, so we have lots of in-house birds. Okay, moving on to feather color. One of the main reasons why birds are chosen as pets is because of their vibrant, beautiful color. People are attracted by the yellow, green, red coloration. But there are conditions where we don't find the birds to be very bright. They come in dull coloration. The white feathers or the green feather has to be bright green, turns to be black, brown. So what is the reason for this? See, there are pigments that help in feather coloration, like the melanin, xanthophyll, carotenoid, porphyrin. If the bird is not getting a diet which is rich in carotene pigments, then they show the dull coloration. So always we have to provide with them a proper diet, and nutrition plays a very important role in the welfare of birds. Next, molting. We vets who see birds always get questions like, especially when it's a new breeder or new person who is keeping pet birds, they would say, there are few thorn-like projections in the head of my bird. What is that? I'm so much worried about the condition. Is the bird okay? Things like that. So it's nothing but your bird is molting. When the bird molt, there'll be a sheath that is covering the new feather. That is the pinned feathers. And once they preen and groom themselves, they remove the sheath and the new feathers come out. So molting is nothing but replacement of new feathers, and this occurs maybe once a year or twice a year. And there are different factors that determine when a bird should molt and when the bird shouldn't molt. It depends on the temperature, humidity, the reproductive status of the bird, the diet of the bird, etc. So if you see that a bird is molting, ask your clients to add lot of protein in their diet, like in the form of sprouts, egg, etc., and supplement lot of vitamins in their diet. And in this picture, you can see the pink feathers, which is indication that the bird is molting. And this is a picture where the bird was molting, but because the bird was old and it had an anatomical deformity, it was not able to remove that sheath from the cotting. That cotting was not able to be removed. So it ended up to be like this. But the bird was otherwise healthy. It was lack of preening. So, coming to the greater topic, that was the anatomy and introduction. Greater topic, today we'll be talking about feather diseases or skin diseases mostly. So, we should always understand that what we see outside when a bird is brought to us with a feather disease or a feather plucking, it's not actually what we see. There is a lot of underlying factors that is affecting. There can be infectious causes, there can be non-infectious causes. There are diseases which is like, if it's a feather disease, it's a disease which is non-scent inflicted. That is like the bird is not plucking himself. It can be because of viral, it can be some endocrinopathy, it can be genetic. And there are diseases which is self-inflicted, like humans have that obsessive compulsive disorder. Like birds also end up having behavioral feather plucking. So as vets, as people who deal with patients like birds in day-to-day life, we are obliged to understand what is actually happening with the bird. So I'll start from the normal ones, then I'll keep on talking to the core of the subject, that is feather plucking, which we see day-to-day basis, and we are like most of the vets are clueless or confused regarding what is actually happening with the bird. So this is the condition where we all of us can diagnose and come to prognosis of 100%, like good outcome is received in this. It's Nemidocopter mites. So basically, smaller birds like the canaries, budgies are affected by this condition. It's a mite infestation. So what happens? It is usually affecting the featherless areas of the body, like feet, then beak, the ear, the head region. Regions like that are so commonly seen. There will be hyperplasia and hypertosis of the epithelium, and that the mites are actually burrowing mites. They form spits in the skin. So best treatment is ivermectin. You can give it at a dose of 0.2 milligram per kg. Avoid injections. You can put a small drop of the mectin solution behind the neck region, so that will clear the infection. You can do the infection first week and then wait for the second week. Maybe 2 or 3 treatment will completely cure the disease. So this is very commonly seen. Next, we had a case where now I'm working Dr. Deena Dev's clinic. So we had 2 cockatiels come into our clinic, which was constantly itching, as we see in the video. They will never stop itching. They kept on itching like that. We took the history of the bird. The diet was proper. Everything was proper. Then we took a feather sample and we examined under microscope. We could see these lice. For lice infestation, we can always use fipronil spot on or spray can be used, which is less concentration. And also ivermectin can also be used in this condition. And where we vets fail to recognize the disease, it's not always mites or lice or anything else. Sometimes gastrointestinal parasites like Giardia can also cause hypersensitization, and that result in itching of the body. So always go for a fecal examination in birds like cockatiels and budgies. So whenever you do that, and if you can associate, if a bird is presented to you, especially a cockatiel and a budgie, and if it is showing extensive, greasy, oily skin, feather plucking, loose stools, check the fecal sample. You might end up in getting giardia. If that is the condition, there is no point in giving the bird polybion syrup or A2Z, or asking them to spray with what do you say, apple cider vinegar, or spray with neem oil, neem, or giving them toys, things like that. You will have to treat the giardia condition. So that is metronidazole can be given at 30 milligram per kg per oral. I'm not going much into the you know doses because it's readily available in exotic animal formulary. You can always refer to that. So don't be like, always be open to whatever can be the reasons of the disease. Then, very importantly, when a bird like a cockatoo or African grey parrot is presented with you, PBFT, citizen beak and feather disease, which is caused by circovirus. It is a very dangerous disease because what happens, the bird will be presented to you with very bad condition. The complaint will be like, the bird is losing the feathers, the bird is biting, the beaks are crusty, it's breaking up. Uh, it's all sign that the bird is suffering from citizen beak and feather disease. The thing is, the new feathers, the bird will molt, but the new feathers will be dystrophied, it will be necrotic, it will be misshapen, it won't be a proper feather. The liver will be affected, other organs will be affected eventually. How to confirm if it is PBFT or not? We have labs in India which test the same. So there is a lab in Secunderabad, Pranidhi. You can send the sample, you can collect the blood sample and send it to them, and they would give a they would give a result whether it is positive or negative. So PBFD is another disease which can cause skin diseases in birds. Next is Budgerigar fledgling disease, which is caused by avian polyomavirus. Often you get Budgerigar clients who come to you telling, hi doc, this is a 4-year-old budgie, but he's still like a baby. He's not grown his feathers. So we'll ask, what is the diet of the bird? So they will say, so yeah, I give everything. I give a balanced diet, fruit, vegetables, sprouts. I give vitamin syrup, everything. So this is actually polyomavirus. It's so because the bird remains as a fledgling, it is known as fledgling disease. You can see in a group, if you take 10 Budgerigar breeder, you can see at least 4 of them will have birds with this disease in their flock. In Budgerigar, they remain as such a disease, but in other birds, if it's affecting a monk parrot or mutation of Indian red-neck, we have often seen they ending up having hemorrhages on the subcutaneous of the skin, and they die quickly. So you'll have to be very careful when keep birds of different, like always don't mix birds together. Like keep a separate aviary for budgie, keep a separate aviary for other birds. So if you mix them, there will be transmission of disease like this. Then commonly we have feather conditions, like feather cyst is a common condition where we see the birds will be keep on plucking, chewing or biting the feathers, and when we examine, it's a cyst that is actually disturbing the bird. So, and in this condition, we can always remove the cyst. Care should be taken for excessive bleeding that can happen in these areas. Apart from that, cyst is a curable thing. Then there are birds like the female Vasa parrot, male canary, which loses hairs. So in female Vasa parrot during the breeding season, they lose the feathers from their body, their head especially, and also there is a phenomenon known as baldness in male canary. Actually, what is actually happening, the mechanism is not understood, but still, some say it's a deficiency of iodine, some say it is seasonal, it's genetic. We don't know. Yet more to be explored. Then, of course, we get stress lines in birds. When we get a new bird, if the bird is, if the owner is in Kerala and if the bird is coming from Chennai, of course, the bird is kept under a lot of stress during travel and they end up having these horizontal lines on their feathers. And these are known as the stress feathers. Or sometimes when the bird comes to your clinic, they end up having all those a different coloration of the feather, which is because of stress. And once we tackle the stress and we give them proper nutrition and care, they disappear. Then very important but less understood or less concentrated areas, nutritional disease and feather diseases. People, especially the breeders, whenever they gray parrot, as in picture and as in this picture, whenever the gray parrot whose coloration should be gray color and towards the tail region red color end up having a fully red color or red coloration of the feather here and there, they think it to be a mutation. But actually the bird will be having liver diseases, it will be a deficiency of vitamin A and things like that. If you see this bird has been thought as a mutation for so many years. But then eventually it turned out to be having high liver values and hepatomegaly. So whenever a bird is presented to you, it's not that you will have to examine the bird from top to bottom. You will have to ask them regarding the diet of the bird. You will have to see the feather coloration. You will have to totally understand what is causing the bird to pluck the feathers or, self mutilate. So always keep liver diseases and vitamin A deficiencies in mind. Always ask about the diet of the bird. These birds always will have a poor diet. They will be mostly on seed diet for at least 10 years, 15 years. Okay. In some cases, very rarely we see this, not often, because and owners are not very concerned about this disease. It's not a disease, it's a condition. So whenever see a male budgie, the seer, this is the blue coloration that we see, the part that is a seer, that will be blue in color in a male budgie, and in female it will be light whitish or pinkish in color. As the bird grow older, it becomes brown. So in females, it's hormonal estrogen regulated, and males, it's because of testicular tumors. So this is a condition that most of the owners are not much worried about. But if you have clients who are worried about, ask a proper history to understand whether the what was the color of this ear before when it was young. And for females, if it's a brown hypertrophy of this ear, you have depot preparation of leuprolide that can be tried. It's all hormonal regulated in birds, especially female parrots. This is another one very important presentation that we see in our day-to-day exotic bird practice. That is the constricted toe syndrome, especially in smaller birds like the baby birds, especially in parrots like macaws, gray parrots, and all. They end up having a constricted toe. That is, there will be a necrosed area on the toe. If it is not presented at an earlier stage, we'll have to end up amputating the toe. It is basically because of humidity condition that is happening in the aviary or the nursery where they are kept. So managing the humidity condition is of utmost importance in constricted toe syndrome. Otherwise, you will end up amputating all the toes as the bird grows. Yes, that is all about. That's this very small part. That is all about the diseases which is non-self inflicted by the birds. That is, now we're going to talk about the major thing, the dawn of diseases. That is it's a clinical sign and it's not a diagnosis. It's not a clinical diagnosis. If you get a bird like this, what all thing has to go in your mind? What all things you might end up putting a e-collar for the bird. But as good clinicians, as a person who practice avian medicine, it's not always, if you are suggesting e-collar to the bird, that means you have failed in that task. It's your task to understand what is actually happening with the bird and get a permanent cure. If you're putting the e-collar, that means you couldn't stop the bird from plucking the feathers and you failed in the task. So, a self-inflicted feather and skin damage. It's called feather picking or feather plucking. As I told before, it's a commonly brought phenomena or clinical sign in alien practice, and it's very difficult to handle, and it's a big challenge to the clinician. Prognosis is almost guarded from the start itself. We'll have to educate the owner, like we can try, but we don't know what will happen at the end. We can't 100% tell you that okay, all the feathers will grow back in that bird. But the thing is, there are owners who are too much worried about what is actually happening with the bird. It's not all birds that sit on, preen the feathers are feather plucking. So we'll have to understand what is actually feather plucking and what are the conditions that mimic feather plucking. So in molting, they keep preening. So that is not feather plucking. And during breeding season, some birds, like as I told, Vasa parrot, even the eclatus parrot, they pluck feathers from their chest region so that when they sit on the egg, there is more heat that is transferred to the incubating egg. That is called brood patch. That is not feather plucking. And also in breeds like macaws, cockatoo, green cheek kunur, they show a phenomenon known as sexual feather plucking. This mostly happens in adult birds which are not given enough sexual stimulation or sexual attention. If they don't have a cage mate, they end up plucking the feathers. So we almost often see this in parrots where only one parrot is kept in the house, and the owners end up asking, "Doctor, should I provide a female or male for this bird?" Yes, of course. Sometimes that can help the bird from plucking themselves. So you can try that, and also you can remove stimulating toys like mirror toys. There are other. If any other toys in the cage, you just remove that and see if that is working. Always understand what can help the bird. So, in such sexual frustration and feather plucking associated with that, either you can provide a cage mate, either you can remove the stimulatory toys. You can provide, if the bird is very aggressive, you can bring a bird in another cage and keep it near the cage so that when the bird sees that bird, it will be little calm down. Make sure that the bird is not that aggressive and that he end up killing the other bird that you have introduced. Yes. And if you ask me, is there any species, age, and gender predisposition in feather plucking? Yes. Birds like cockatoo, as in this picture, African grey parrot, eclatus parrot, monk parrot, all these are prone to feather plucking. And parrots like budgerigar, Amazons are rarely reported to have histories of feather plucking. And age is mostly the adolescent age, where their hormones are all in flush, and that is the time where they pluck their feathers. And gender, it's seen that females are, it's all study conducted where it is seen that females are more predisposed to feather plucking than males. And if you, as in dermatological conditions of small animals like the dogs and cats, we do have distribution of lesions in feather plucking, mostly from the chest region, the tail region, and the wing region. They pluck the feathers. If you have lesions in these three areas, you can be sure that, okay, yes, it is definitely a condition of feather plucking. Sometimes so. Basically, a self-inflicted feather plucker will have such a look. He will not have feathers on his body, but he might have feathers on his head. But what is the condition if it's the opposite? He has feathers on his head and not on his body, and he's in a group of other birds. That is a condition where he's been attacked by the cage mate. Maybe the number of males are more in the cage. Maybe the number of female is less in the cage. Anything can be a reason. Maybe the number of nest boxes are less. Maybe this is a weak one. Anything can be a reason. So separating this one from the others is the only solution in this condition. Always understand where the lesion originates. In the case of cage aggression, there is no point in we giving, again, we as usual, we vets are, whenever a feather plucking case come, we are so interested in prescribing polybion or vitamins like that. No point in prescribing a multivitamin drops to the bird. It is not going to help the bird. Simply by separating the bird can make a huge difference in the life of that bird. Yes. So when we talk about the infectious, the causes, the actual cause behind the feather plucking, there can be non-infectious causes and infectious causes. Non-infectious causes, as we said before, it can be nutrition deficiency, vitamin A deficiency. It can be inherited disorder. It can be hormonal disturbance like the sexual frustrated feather plucker. It can be hypersensitivity. Any organ neoplasia or anything like any external organ neoplasia or anything that is disturbing the normal follicular growth can end up in feather plucking. Then, if the owner is a cigarette smoker, that toxin and irritants can result the bird to pluck the feathers. And any trauma, and last, behavior abnormality. I'll discuss about behavioral abnormality in detail because it is very important to understand what is psychologically happening with the bird if other causes are not recognized in the condition. As infectious, we have discussed before, it can be a parasite, it can be a mite, it can be a lice, it can be giardia, it can be protozoa, it can be fungal, viral agents, anything can be a reason for the infectious causes. So, what we see in our daily practice, we sometimes recognize birds possibly for aspergillosis, birds having underlying liver diseases, malnutrition. Sometimes we see birds with lead and zinc toxicosis end up in plucking because of the hypersensitivity and pain. So all these systemic findings are that we see in our day-to-day practice. It will be different for other vets, but what we generally see is a lot of fungal disease is associated with feather plucking. A lot of patients with feather plucking do have an underlying liver disorder. So that has to be understood. So, and also there are certain dermatological findings that we see. It can be, we see whenever the bird comes and if we see there is a lesion in the body because of plucking, we always go for a cytology. And what we understand is that there can be an excess of bacteria, yeast infection. It can be, any infection of the follicle or the pulp. And also poor wing trimming has also resulted in all these infections is can be a dermatological etiological factor that is contributing to the feather plucking. If the wings are not trimmed properly, they end up biting the area, and that can result in very bad skin or fatal hemorrhages can also happen. How do we control the pruritus? So it's basically the bird will be having a very itchy skin. So first is to treat the infection, to understand what is actually happening, whether it is an irritant, whether it is a fungal agent or bacterial agent, and then treat accordingly. We can go for celecoxib is a good COX inhibitor. It works well in birds. We always supplement them with omega-3 fatty acids. We give gabapentin for pain. And the question is whether to give topical application. Most of the time in our day-to-day practice, we do not prefer giving topical medicines to the birds, especially for skin issues, because it causes more irritation and the bird end up in biting more and more again. So better we avoid. We do the cleaning and dressing and systemic medicines will be given, but topical medicines we uh, avoid to the maximum. And allergy testing, as you know, allergy testing is not much developed in case of bird, so we don't go for allergy testing until now. Maybe in future there'll be tests that is, to determine the allergy agent that is causing allergy in birds. Yeah, this is the favorite thing that all of we do, all of us do when we see even I have done during my college days. When we see a bird with feather plucking, okay, e-collar, that is the solution for the bird. But we fail to understand. So feather plucking or skin disease is a condition that has to be understood in a more deeper way. Just giving a e-collar or just giving a bird shirt is not going to help the bird. If you as a veterinarian has to prescribe a e-collar to your bird or has to suggest that, okay, I'm sorry, the bird is, I am not able to find the actual reason for what is happening. you better put a e-collar or a body bandage or a body dress. That is the failure, as I told before. We should be able to understand what is actually happening with the bird. But it's not that easy in all the cases. So always we go for, we can make bandages like this. We can make petal collars like this. So these petal collars will be made of either sponge or cloth, so that the bird can bite it off and it is less stressful to the bird. And we'll have to change it over a period of time, maybe in 2 days or 3 days, we'll have to keep changing it. Some birds easily adapt to body shirts. So if it's a smaller bird, you can always, get it made with the socks. Some birds easily adapt to it. Some birds just rip it off. There are individual variations. So we can try. We can go for 101 trial and error method to understand what your bird wants or what your patient is wanting and what is suitable for your patient. Not that, okay, I tell you, so this bandage work for me, so that it might work for your bird. Not that your bird might break it in 2 minutes. So you will have to keep on understanding what works for your bird. Then there are restraint collars. Uh, it's similar to e-collar. It's e-collar actually. So that is basically when the bird is mutilating, like there is, hemorrhages, erythema, lesions in the skin. If it's a habitual problem that the bird is continuously plucking for more than a year, things like that, then we will put a e-collar. So e-collar, we get commercial e-collars, or you can make a e-collar from a X-ray film or any other film like that. So this is the Elizabethan e-collar. We have tubular e-collars. The thing is that once you put the e-collar, observe the bird for some time. Not that you put the e-collar, you ask the owner to take the bird away. No. You'll have to observe the bird for some time. Either you can ask the bird to stay in the in-house for a day or two, so that you can understand if the bird is able to, adapt to that e-collar, or if the bird is going all the more crazy and hurting himself more and things like that. So you'll have to observe the bird for some time and then take a decision whether to continue the e-collar or remove it immediately. Towards the last sessions of our presentation, it's like, if you are not able to understand or diagnose a medical condition, say for example, why the bird is plucking, there is no mites, there is 100% proper nutrition given to the bird, there is no other underlying cause, it's not breeding, it's not sexually frustrated. So what can be the reason, why is the bird plucking? So that is all behavioral. Like in humans, we have conditions of OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. We have conditions of trichotillomania. I just wrote it down because I won't remember it. It's trichotillomania. I don't know how many of you have heard of that condition. It's nothing but people just keep on pulling their hair to an extent that there'll be alopecia that is developed. Similar to that, bird also has psychological conditions. So that is why they keep plucking their feathers. So in birds, it is called Terotillomania. Terotillomania, where they keep on plucking their feathers. It is similar to conditions that we see in humans, and a lot of studies are coming these days based on behavioral understanding of how bird system work. So it can be, so if you see in the slide, it can be why the bird plucks. So it can be stress related, it can be obsessive compulsion, it can be separation anxiety, it can be reproductive related, it can be attention seeking, it can be because of us. We poorly trim the wing, so that can be a reason. It can be because of improper training and also habituation. So let's see. How can you understand if it's a separation anxiety? So you got a bird to your house and you are with the bird, you spend 2 days with the bird is getting closer to you, and next day onwards you start going for a work. The bird has been separated from you. So then the bird starts plucking. The bird plucking when only nobody is there in the house, the bird is alone in the house. Or say example, there was a person with whom the bird was attached to, and then maybe that person is not in the house anymore, then the birds start plucking. We see a lot of such cases every day. Whenever we ask about the history regarding, is a person who was attached to the bird not in the house anymore, or is the person not able to give enough time to the bird? That is separation anxiety. So what can be done? So if you are not able to be with the bird for 24/7, start enrichments. Start give more toys to the bird. Encourage the bird to play independently. And also, before you leave the bird, give a meal, give a toy, give a treat to the bird. And also encourage more exercise in bird. Attention seeking. So the bird when so there are birds which will pluck the feathers when you are in the home, but you are not paying attention to the bird. They start screaming. So if you can hear the background voice in this clinic, we have a cockatoo which is constantly. So he is showing the same sign as the GIF image in this presentation. He wants attention. He can see me, he wants me to play with him. So he keeps screaming. He just screams now, but hopefully he won't pluck himself. He wants attention. That is attention seeking. Even in such cases, you can encourage the bird to play alone. Like you can give toys, you can do enrichments, foraging balls, things like that. And also when the bird is having showing a good behavior, reward the bird, give a treat, give a cashew or a walnut, or things like that. Attention seeking is also another behavioral disorder in bird. Then reproductive. So this happens if see what generally happens. How does a bird get attached to you? It usually get imprinted. So a bird, if it's a single bird, the bird sees. If I have a single bird, that bird sees me as his or her mate. So once a bird has reached its adolescence, and the bird will be sexually attracted to me, and they will show breeding signs. They will want to scratch. They will always want us to scratch their body, and thus stimulating the sexual hormones. If that is not received in birds which are attached to the owner, they start plucking their feathers. So what has to be done is avoid the sexual stimulation that we used to give the bird. Stop scratching the bird. So you can stop the excess of nutrition food that you are giving the bird. You can just keep the bird on a dry pelleted diet. If there is any nest box that you have provided the bird, you have to remove the nest box, reduce the interactions, reduce the daylight. So understand that okay, this bird is sexually having a behavior, sexual frustrated feather plucking. So remove such factors that are stimulating the sexual feather plucking. So that is one thing we'll have to closely understand and work with the bird. And it's always stress related. If a bird is been taken to one place to another, that traveling stress can be a reason. If the presence of another new bird in the house can be a stress to the bird, or if there is any new object or new person in the house can be stress to the bird. So always try to associate and take a proper history of what is actually happening and then treat the bird. Then obsessive compulsive behavior. It becomes a compulsive behavior. How we understand that? The bird does nothing else. It keeps plucking himself. So that is a compulsive behavior that is happening with the bird. In this condition, we'll have to rule out any other skin disease that is happening in the bird. Because of excessive grooming, there are chances that there will be lesions in the skin, there will be hemorrhages that will be painful for the bird. And we'll have to always not give much attention to such birds, because they will keep on plucking if the bird is in a state of obsessive compulsive behavior. But to take a session like this, okay, there is separation plucking, there is anxiety, there is reproductive behavior changes which results in plucking. Where there is obstetric compulsion, it is very easy. But to actually understand and differentiate and involve it in your clinical practice, it is difficult, and it will take a lot of time and years to actually, incorporate into your practice and actually determine what is happening with your feather plucking bird. That is why we say it's a challenging topic. And sometimes improper. Now we see a lot of breeders. What they do is, all of us want tamed birds, right? So what they do is, they even take the egg of the bird, they incubate it, and from day one they hand raise the baby. Such babies won't have any interaction with other birds. So such babies start, maybe because of boredom or maybe because of stress, they start feather plucking at a younger age. So such birds has to be taken care of. Such birds has to be exposed to normal adult birds, and discourage the criteria where they pluck the feathers. Like, you can do some spraying. You can always, if you spray if you think it's because of improper preening or any behavior, you can always spray neem to their body or just spray water to their body, so that they will stop, plucking their feathers, and normal preening is encouraged. Then we get the happy, healthy, naked bird. So we often see birds like this. So whatever you do, whatever supplements you give the bird, whatever cytology you do, and you come to a you can't come to a conclusion. Whatever viral test you do, you can't come to a conclusion. Such birds are the habitual feather picking birds. So whatever you do, they're gonna keep on plucking their feathers. They're gonna remain as the happy, healthy, naked bird. So that is the condition where the duration of feather plucking is more than 1 year, and that predisposing factor which made the bird to pluck the feather, maybe separation, maybe anxiety, maybe attention seeking, maybe reproductive, whatever it may be, it is not there now. We are clueless about what happened to the bird, what is actually happening to the bird. It is a habit to the bird. It's a self-sustaining, and the follicles will be inactive. The prognosis will be poor in this condition. You can't guarantee, okay, you give my medicines for 1 month, the bird will grow back his feathers. Or you can't say, okay, you start proteins and sprouts and eggs and this pellets in the diet, okay, from next day the bird will start. After 1 or 2 months, the bird will have the featheration. No, this nothing can be done. You can always protect the bird from environmental stress by using a bird shirt or bandages like that. And also, in such conditions, you always check for injuries that the bird causes to itself while plucking or biting on the body of the bird. So, after telling all this, in a nutshell, I'll tell you how to approach a bird case. So now you'll be confused, like, okay, what should I actually do when I get, or how will I come to a conclusion whether it's an infectious, whether it is a behavioral problem. So one thing that you have to understand is that it is never one problem. It will be a combination of a medical and a behavioral problem. So always keep that in mind. Maybe because there is some medical infectious reason that is happening in the body, the bird is plucking, along with there is, improper enrichment, improper time spent for the bird, things like that. So it's psychological aspect also has to be taken care of. So what do we do usually? So whenever we get the bird, we do a thorough physical examination. We always check for general disease. If there is any infection, any systemic infection, we see the skin. To see the skin, it's fully covered by feathers, right? So we moisten the feathers. We sometimes use general anesthesia, inhaler anesthesia to see the bird properly. We check the toes, we check the ears, the full complete feathers we check, and also we check the beak. Always nails we check. Always be careful. If the beak is fragile, it can break easily and lead to bleeding. Always check on that. Then Then with the general physical examination, after that we decide whether to do a systemic work with the bird. Sometimes we go for CBCs, that is complete blood count, blood chemistries, radiographs to understand. Say for example, we suspect a liver disease, we go for the liver values, the liver chemistries, and we go for X-rays to understand how big the liver is. We can easily appreciate that. And in birds like budgerigars or cockatiels, we go for a fecal examination to see if any GRD is present. We always ask history questions regarding the painting, polishing activities of the bird, regarding the cage where the bird is kept, to understand and rule out chances of lead and zinc in the blood of the bird. We don't do serology for aspergillosis, but we can always go for endoscopy, but we can go for a culture and sensitivity, things like that. But in this present scenario in India or in where in India, people won't do lots of systemic work. But so we are, obliged to find what is actually happening with the limited resources. Then dermatological workup. We take a skin scraping, we do a feather squash, we see the lice that we saw, we see what is happening. Sometimes we do culture and sensitivity. Skin biopsies, we rarely do, but people who has the opportunity to do it that they are always welcome to do. And always we do virus screening. We definitely do screening for PBFT, that is citizen beak and feather disease. We send sample, we send feather sample, and also with that we send the blood sample, and we do a screening for PBFT. That is not very costly also. It is less than 1,000. So yes, that has been done from our side. Then how to treat. So if we have a understanding of what is actually happening, and we were able to diagnose the primary disorder or primary cause, it's easy. We'll control the infection. If it's an antigenic agent, we will minimize the contact. We give frequent bathing and misting. We minimize the stress. And if we understand, if we understood that okay, it's a behavioral problem. When we talk to the owner, everything is fine. The systemic disease, we couldn't identify any disease. Okay, we came to a conclusion that it is behavioral. We'll ask them to provide more toys. We'll ask them to spend more time with them. We'll ask them to, if we came to understand that it's a sexual related, feather picker, we'll ask them to remove the uh, mirror toys, especially from their cage. Ask to remove the nesting boxes from the cage, things like that. And yeah, that's it. And then we'll have to teach the client regarding what is the normal behavior, normal molting, what is normal preening, and what is the genetics of what all birds have a genetic habit of plucking the feathers, things like that. So if we have a proper understanding of what is actually happening with the bird, it will be easy for us to educate the client and come out with a better outcome in case of skin diseases and feather plucking in birds. Always we should ask the owner to keep a journal, and follow-up is very important. We'll have to ask them to come back to our clinic in 6 to 8 weeks of time, and also keep a record of what is actually happening. At some point of time we might not end up having a fully feathered healthy bird, but sometimes there'll be a bird which is healthier and happier, but still it might pluck. It's not always treating, it's like treating a psychiatric patient. So feather plucking can be psychiatrist also. So it's like treating a psychiatric patient. The patient will be much happier and healthier, but still it will be continuing to pluck. But at some point of time we'll have to close our eyes towards such conditions. So that is what is regarding avian avian dermatology. We can talk a lot about avian dermatology, but then it is all about understanding every day what is actually happening to the bird, talking with the owners, taking a very thorough history of what has to be done, what not has to be done, what wrong the owner is doing to the bird, and things like that. So at least a good talk with good interaction with the client for at least 1.5 hour, a good talking, only then we'll come to a conclusion that okay, this could be the reason why your bird is plucking the feathers. And because I told, so this is towards the last session of my presentation, because I told bathing and spraying the bird, it is always, we can always encourage the owners to bath their birds. Either you can provide a bowl of water from which the birds will bath, or always you can spray water to the body of the bird. So that will encourage the bird to preen more regularly. So make sure that you use only water to bathe the birds, and it should be done at least I wouldn't say 7 times, but at least 2 to 3 times a week you can do it. But then people ask, okay, should I blow dry my bird after that? No, that is not necessary. You can always give a bath to your bird and let it dry itself, let it preen the body, and enjoy the bathing session. And then people ask questions whether we should regarding sprays and shampoos in birds. Always I would say avoid using such things in birds, but we do get mist like jungle shower and all to spray it on the body of the bird. That has found to be effective, but apart from that, any spray that is containing the fatty grease, fatty acid is not good for the birds. And shampoos also, we would say no to the shampoo because it removes the powder down, and bird won't look that healthy and clean. It looks very greasy and gray. And also mite stuff, there are people who unnecessarily use mite stuff. Say no to that. Only if you find, always encourage them to uh, come to a conclusion and then treat. Not that okay, my bird is itching. It might be mite. I'll give some, moxidectin, because they have higher generation medicines than we use. We must be still using the ivermectin, but the bird owners or people who keep the aviary, they'll be having moxidectin or higher generation of medicine. They'll be like, okay, chalo, I'll give a shot of moxidectin to my bird. No, you should ask responsible avian vets. You should always encourage the owners to first understand what is actually happening and then treat for the disease. Then I told about, so this is the last slide of my presentation. I told about improper wing trimming can, cause feather plucking. If it is not trimmed properly, if we are cutting a blood feather, all can result in bleeding, all can cause irritation in birds and end up in feather plucking and then associated diseases. So how to pluck the feathers? So usually we do it like this. We leave the first three primary feathers and we cut the secondaries. So that can be done. Always make sure that you hold the bird properly. A proper restraint is very important in wing trim. Some breeders or my father, what he does is he leaves the first three feathers, then he will trim alternate feathers till the end. So that can be done. Now there are methods by which we don't actually cut off the feathers. We just shave the ends of the feathers so that birds are not able to fly. Whichever method is used, make sure that you get it done from an experienced person, and also make sure that you identify the blood feather before you cutting the main feathers. That is it. So avian dermatology, as I said, it's a big topic, but it's all about practice and experience that you will be able to tackle the condition at your clinic. Sometimes you will, as I told before, you will not be able to really find a solution for the feather plucking bird. Sometimes you will have to let the bird live as a happy, healthy, naked bird, and you should tell that okay, I failed in this mission. You better wear your e-collar and enjoy your habitual feather plucking. So whatever conditions you are able to, tackle, you can tackle with a proper history and understanding the medical condition. Rest all, you will have to take it as a psychiatric patient and understand the psychology of the bird. Understand that it's a psychological condition that is happening with the bird and treat accordingly. And what I would want to say is not always prescribe multivitamin or any other syrup, or not always prescribe ivermectin for the feather pluckers. So just try to understand what is actually happening with the bird, read more about it, and then come to a conclusion. Yes. And I think that with that, I end my presentation. Uh, I think it's you can ask questions or whatever because it's a very such a topic that you can ask any kind of questions. Whatever I know, I will try to clear your doubts. I don't know how to go back.
Thank you, Dr. Rani Thomas, for a good, lively session for AVD on avian dermatology and insight practically into exotic birds. We have a few questions for you.
Okay, but can I see the question?
No, we'll say it out to you. So don't worry.
Okay.
Okay. Number one question comes from my end.
Okay.
You are born and brought up in Kerala, now in Mumbai,
Yes.
doing a practice. So, do you think birds are better in a aviary or birds are better in Indian confined system of Mumbai?
Um,
You are a mix of a veterinarian and should be a naturalist, so biologist.
yes. See, it depends. It depends on what birds you are keeping. If it's an exotic parrot, see, we see a lot of people. They come to a clinic. Doctor, I just got these birds from a, pet shop, and I'm going to release it to the wild. So, what birds they get it? It will be an exotic parrot. But I would say if you release an exotic bird into the Indian wild, what is going to happen is like they're going to get attacked by predators. So it depends on what bird you are keeping. If you are keeping an exotic bird, it is always better to keep them confined in an aviary. And with the Indian laws of Wildlife Act, we are not allowed to keep Indian wildlife or Indian birds. So most of the people end up keeping exotic birds. So yeah, so even if you are keeping exotic parrot, I would say provide them bigger cages, provide them good nutrition, interact with them, and things like that would help. Not that we can't give 100% satisfactory place for a bird who has been flying kilometers a day in the wild, in the forest of Amazon, in wherever Brazil. We won't be able to simulate such a condition in the aviary. But as far as possible, try to provide a better environment for the bird. But I would never suggest buy an exotic bird and release it to the wild. It's you are definitely gonna kill the bird.
True. Dr. Rani, there are a number of myths regarding what to be fed to a bird. So, if you can
Okay.
clarify a few of them for the vets.
That is another big topic of avian nutrition. So ideally, we would say it's a balanced diet. We would say so. If we ask some people like, what do you feed the bird? Okay, I feed them seeds, sunflower seeds, and in the cage also we see sunflower seeds. No, if you see what they eat in the wild, you will be surprised. They eat crab, they eat small snails, they eat clay, they eat fruits, vegetables, every what not they eat. So it is our duty to understand what they actually eat in the wild, and even in parrots. So if in a nutshell, if I say what is a nutrition, they will need a mixture of fruits and vegetables. They need sprouts, they can eat animal protein like chicken, fish, eggs, and they love seeds. So if you are telling 10% and out of 100 percentage of the diet, it should only be 10 percentage should only be the seeds, and not what people do is they give 90 percentage seeds and then 10 percentage of what fruits and vegetables. And even in this, when I say 10 percentage of seeds, there are birds like macaws and cockatoos. They consume palm nut in the wild. So they need a lot of fat in their body. So they need higher concentration of seeds in their body. And birds like Amazon, they need more of carbohydrate, protein in their diet. They end up having liver diseases if you give more of seeds in the diet. Even cockatoos need a lot of protein in the diet. Then eggletters need a lot of vegetables in the diet. So like that, it's a next big topic to be discussed. Avian nutrition. It's yeah. In short, not only seeds. Not that is what I would say.
I don't think Dr. Nagaraj will promote us, help us to talk about nutrition because his aspect is dermatology. So we go to the next question. The next
Definitely.
question is from a person who has been attending the session for last 1 hour. He says the sound which is coming from the back is of a bird or of a child.
It's a cockatoo.
It's a cockatoo.
And I would say it's a child because the birds have the mental ability of a toddler, 3 to 4 year old kid. So yeah, it can be considered as a human child. That is why their needs are equal to a child. It's like we have to provide them enrichment. We have to provide them toys. Imagine you give the same toy to a kid. What is going to happen? He is going to break it in 1 minute, or he is not going to be interested in that toy. He will play for 5 minutes or a day. From the next day, he wants a new toy. He wants attention. He is keep on growing. So the bird is also like that. So whenever we have a bird, we buy a bird, we should always be ready in such a way that we are going to handle a baby. Yeah, it's not as easy as we think.
I think the next question is a clinician question from a person probably who works in birds. How do we distinguish Burgundier fielding disease and a French molt?
It's basically the same. See, French malt, it's a different term that is used by the AV culturist people. So AV culturist people, they use the, see, Bergerica fragile disease is same as French malt. It's a different name that is used. That is a common name that is used by the AV culturist. They won't say okay, avian polyoma virus or Bergerica fledgling disease. They say French malt. Yeah.
How frequently is shock because of electric connections, and how do you handle that?
Uh, Most of the cases, birds die. We don't. I have never seen a case of shock, bird affected with shock and come to our clinic. We rarely see such cases. Even if the bird survives, we rarely see. But we do see burns in birds. We have seen. So first we treat the wound, and the pain management is very important, and secondary infection is taken care of. But shock as such in birds, I have never seen. We rarely see such cases in birds.
Do we use haloperidol in avian patients,
See,
especially
there
in
are.
terms of chronic feather plugging
Yes,
disease?
we in Indian scenario, I don't think anyone is using it, but literature, yes, I have attended webinars where they say, okay, they use haloperidol, but there will be side effects, and because I don't use it, I don't recommend it. It's all understanding. It's all to understand. You give the medicine and you understand how the bird react. As I said, it's a psychiatric topic to be discussed. I don't think anybody in India, we don't use the medicine in birds,
Right.
but it
There's a
can help in all these psychological behavioral feather plucking studies say. Yes.
there's a condition which is very similar to egg-bound
Hmm.
condition. So when we know that copulation has not happened, what could be the other? I think
Copy.
you're getting.
See, yeah, every bird will. If it's a female bird, they will produce egg.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's not a similar condition to egg bound. It might be egg. To confirm that, you take an X-ray.
Okay.
So people say, okay, I don't have a male bird in the house. My female is produced egg. Of course, all females produce egg. So yeah, take an X-ray to confirm if it's an egg or see if you are just seeing the abdominal swelling, it's not necessary that it's an egg. It can be enlarged liver, it can be ascites, it can be egg, it can be a tumor, it can be anything. Just confirm what it is. A simple X-ray can help you figure out what is actually happening. Yeah, and it's not necessary that copulation is needed to form an egg. They can form without copulation also.
which all injections can be given subcut in birds?
Actually,
Or
most, yeah.
yeah, ivermectin can be given. The next question is like that.
No, see, we usually avoid subcut. You see, ideally avoid IM injections in birds. We usually give most of the injections subcut because they have less of muscle mass. Huh? So, if we are gonna give injections that's like a weak therapy, it's gonna, totally cause muscle necrosis in birds. So, we always suggest give subcut. Ivermectin, because it's a oily preparation, I wouldn't say subcut because that is not needed. You just put a drop of ivermectin behind the neck of the bird that helps in getting rid of the mites. That subcutaneous absorption without giving an proper injection will definitely help, to get rid of the mites or whatever you are treating for. No need to go for an injection as such. What other injections we give is like most of the things we give injections like we give antibiotics, Endro we give, Butrum. Yeah, we give a lot of injections. But if it's a long-term therapy, we make sure that it's not fully IM. The muscle necrosis will be more. We mostly prefer subcut.
Any topicals that you recommend, say especially shampoos for a normal bath and all?
No, that is what I told you. No, avoid shampoos and things like that. But it's not a shampoo. It's called Jungle Shower. It's a spraying mist. Um, but I don't know if it's available in the market right now. Earlier we used to get it's called Jungle Shower. But if you want to, spray the bird, just spray plain water. Keep the bird outside by around 11 o'clock in the morning. Spray water nicely, and the bird itself will preen nicely. But I would suggest not to use all these shampoos and things like that. Better avoid.
Do birds like bud gear birds
Mm.
have some condition very similar to a egg-bound condition? This is from Dr. Zanish, and he wanted to repeat it. Probably I missed on it somewhere.
No, I didn't understand the question.
You can also view it the question answer. It's a question from Dr. Zanish
Once
Zaid.
where can I? Okay, question answer. Okay. Mm, where do I see questions?
I'll just put it. It says, ma'am, what is that condition where there is a bulge at the prevent area
Ah,
in Buddyker females,
ah.
which is similar to a egg-bound like condition, but not so. Please guide on the diagnosis and the treatment.
So just ask him if he has taken any X-rays. If he has done, he can share it with me. See, it can. Is there any? No. Okay, it's some other question. Okay. So see, basically in birds, it's difficult to understand what is actually happening. We'll have to go for an X-ray. So what he said, it can be an egg, it can be excess fat in the body that is accumulated if it's yellowish in color. If he can share some pictures or more about it, I'll be able to talk. Maybe later after the session, if he can, just send me a message in Facebook or anywhere, we can look into it more in a deeper way.
Hmm. Do
Mm.
birds have the tendency of parents having the tendency of eating their young ones? If so, which
Yeah.
breed? Which birds?
So that is mostly seen in Budgerigar, that is seen in finches. Huh? So what happened? It's because of the colony breeding. So the thing is, we buy two pair of birds. We provide them with two nest box. They breed nicely. Then the chicks come out. Then these chick undergo inbreeding, and then no, then it's all cage aggression. It might not be that the parent bird is eating the one. It may be the new birds that is brought to the aviary must be eating, but they do show aggression either because they want to mate again and lay eggs. They do attack they don't eat as such, but they do attack the young ones. Yeah. And yeah, that is seen in finches and budgericas, especially when they're colony bred. Colony breeding is where we breed a group of birds together. Like if it's a high priced birds, people usually prefer individual breeding. That is cage breeding. That is, we keep one male and female in single cage and that's it. No more birds are allowed to come inside. So that helps in reducing aggression, mate aggression, young ones, chick aggression. So
Do you
it's all
recommend?
related.
Yeah, please, please,
Recommend.
please. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
No. Yeah, done.
Do you recommend ectoparasiticidal dusting powders in birds?
We usually don't use it, but this no, I don't use. I don't recommend dusting powder, but you can use fipronil and things like that. The
Permethrin?
permethrin people use, but I have not used it, so I wouldn't suggest it. What I feel is safe is either ivermectin or fipronil spray. Permethrin is advisable. People do use it, especially in pigeons and chickens and all. People use it.
Many vets, especially at the government sector, they just give you a liver tonic or a vitamin
Hmm.
B complex oral syrup,
Yes.
especially when dealing with bird.
Yeah.
Does it work? Is it that much required? This is the last question.
See, it's because they just once they see the bird, what is their mindset? Is they're like, okay, I just want to get rid of this bird. I don't know anything about this bird. Okay, that is it. Okay, this telega, you give this multivitamin and this telega. That is what happened. And there is something in Kerala called PSM mixture. I don't know if it's there in Chennai or here. PSM, we mix all potassium permanganate, what all medicines are there, we mix and we give that. See, it's all because one thing is vets think Aben medicine is a different branch, and it's one thing is they are very scared of birds. You know, they think the birds are very costly. Once they touch the bird or give injection, the bird is gonna die. So they don't bother to check the bird and give a medicine or things like that. Even because I have seen when I started my practice, I have seen it will be simple. Parasitic infection in bird. Then the doctor will give some injection or something, and the bird will die immediately. It's I would say just spend some time with the bird, understand what is actually happening with the bird, do some tests, and then we'll be able to come to a conclusion whether when we will be able in a situation whether we not only can prescribe the multivitamin or liver tonic, we can do much more than that. It's just understanding and spending some more time with the bird. I think most of the vets in government sector they wouldn't spend even 5 minutes with the bird. They just sign it and okay, yeah.
Is
Yes.
regular deworming recommended for birds? If so, what
So
molecule?
we recommend every 3 months deworming. We have a deworm. We can use dewormers like Pyrandel, albendazole, but we have a specific dewormer for birds. It's called worm out gel, which is a combination of oxbendazole and praziquantel. So one good thing about worm out gel is that we have a water-based dose and a individual direct dose. So if it's water-based dose, then we'll have to give 2 pump of that medicine in 160 ml water. It's then give it for 2 days. If it's a direct dose, we have a particular dilution where we dilute it and give it according to 100 grams of bird, so and so ml of medicine. So worm out gel is good. Yeah, that is what we use, and we recommend deworm every 3 months. And even in my aviary, we do recommend we deworm the birds every 3 months.
Right. Last and final question.
Hmm.
What is the percentage of fipronil used for birds? Is it same as dogs or something else?
It's the same Nafli that spray we get. No, that's what we use.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
I think questions are still there, but being a Sunday, we'll bring it to the end.
yeah,
Everyone has got some of the other works, but we have tried to attend to the major part of it.
yeah.
Uh, I, on behalf of AVD and INTAS, thank Dr. Rani Thomas for a lovely session on exotic birds. It was a pleasure having you on board and listening to you. I, on behalf of all of us, and especially Dr. Nagarajan, as well as myself, we thank you for being a part of AVD
Thank
webinars.
you so much for giving me such a wonderful opportunity to talk on avian dermatology. It was my pleasure. Yeah, I was very thankful to all of you.